It's a wild world out there, but some worlds are even wilder. Hi, my name is Tyler Hapney, and you're listening to Dungeons and Dystopias. Thank you for listening. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Dungeons and Dystopias. I'm your game master and host, Tyler Hapney, and I have put this podcast together as a way for me to reconcile my thoughts on Cyberpunk Red and Dungeons and Dragons. Today, we're going to be talking a bit more about Dungeons & Dragons, and I'd like to talk more about some of the classes that you could play in that game. Last time, I talked about Cleric, but today I want to talk about Monk. Not a lot of people play Monk, to be honest with you, at least out of my friend group. But, there's a reason for that. For one, a lot of people don't seem to think that Monk is... to be honest with you, Monk kind of falls off later levels. Once you get past like level 9, level 10, then it's not as great as some of the other classes. But at the same juncture, Monk goes so hard early game. Really, honestly, when you're first starting a campaign, you can really put out a lot of damage as a Monk. So honestly, when it comes to Monk, I think Monk gets a little bit more flack than what is deserved, because I personally think that Monk is a pretty good class, and it has quite a bit of utility that maybe, it doesn't become exactly as good later on, but at least you can, start off a campaign like feeling like Bruce Lee, basically, right out of the gate. So what is a monk? Well, a monk is somebody who uses martial arts and ki in order to fight. And that's really kind of the gist of it. I mean, most people at this point in this stage who've engaged with fantasy media at least kind of know what a monk is. I mean, we have World of Warcraft with monks. We've got, obviously, Baldur's Gate 3 showed off the whole monk thing. It's just, I think Diablo's even got like a monk system. So, it's just kind of one of those classic fantasy archetypes of a guy who's able to beat things up with his fists rather than any weapons. And monks can do a lot of really cool stuff like catch arrows or punch quite a lot. I think, in fact, they have the ability to really, I don't know if I would say attack more than anyone else. And fighters definitely, I think, have that category for a person who can make the most attacks. But monks can make the most consistent attacks, I'd say, over the course of a short rest or a long rest. They're the ones that'll be definitely attacking multiple times, basically every turn. Not only that, but their key points allow them to put modifiers on those punches, and a lot of those modifiers aren't really necessarily like once per turn types of things. So let's really get into it, and I'll explain a bit more what I mean. So when you're first starting out as a monk, already you're kind of dealt with a couple of things that you have to deal with. For one, the martial arts die. So for monk, your unarmed attacks are a guaranteed value that is a lot higher than a typical person's unarmed attacks. Base game, just a punch is 1 plus your strength score. However, with a monk, you now have a dice rather than just a solid 1 number value there. So you can, from first to fourth level, your unarmed strike is now a 1d4, which means you could potentially be dealing, 4 plus your strength, or your dexterity, I suppose, in this case, because we, of course, get access to martial arts starting at level 1, which allows us to use dexterity instead of strength, which is really, really good. And then another thing martial arts allows us to do is when you use the attack action with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon on your turn, you can then use a unarmed strike as a bonus action. So you get a free second strike would be when you first start. But yeah, I mean, you're already starting out with 2 attacks as a monk. Your damage dice is a little lower, but at the same time, all of those strengths modifiers added to the end of each of those does compounds pretty easily, I'd say. So, I mean, you could be dealing 2 1d4 hits, but if you've got a, strength of 4, that's 2d4 plus 8, which is pretty decent. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good hit. But, now moving on, at level 2, you get access to key points and unarmored movement, which means monks go faster than your normal person. And believe me, they can get very fast. At 20th level, a monk's unarmed movement caps out at an additional 30 feet of movement, which is insane. That's basically double what they had originally. So, 60 feet of movement monk at level 20. I guess level 18 is when that happens. Absolutely insane. Imagine putting that on a tabaxi. Tabaxis have the ability to, if they stand still, they can basically double their movement speed on their next turn. So it'd be 120-foot tabaxi, like speed tabaxi. And God help you if they decide to dash. Yeah. So obviously monks are fast, and they can be made to be much faster through the infamous tabaxi monk build. At second level, you also get access to key points, which allow you to modify your abilities in so many different ways. The three most popular ones you're going to see are Flurry of Blows, which is you can allow yourself to, instead of taking that one attack on your bonus action, you can use a key point and do 2 attacks on your bonus action. So that's 3 attacks you can start with at level 2. Which is obviously more than any other class. Patient Defense allows you to take the dodge action as for a key point as a bonus action, which makes it obviously harder for people to hit you. And then Step of the Wind is very similar to the Rogue's ability of being able to disengage or dash as a bonus action, only that requires a key point from a monk. We are going to then get on to our monastic traditions, and I'd love to get through a lot of these, but we're only going to go through, I think, probably 1 or 2. And obviously, I think I'd really like to start with the one monk class that everyone seems to agree is the best, and that would be the Kensei monk. Kensei is pretty good. It allows them to take a weapon of some sort, like a simpler martial weapon, and a ranged weapon, and you can give yourself proficiency in those weapons. And those weapons in specific become monk weapons. So even if they aren't traditionally what one would consider a monk weapon, with the Kensei monk, it still works out. So what does a Kensei weapon do? Well, if you make an unarmed strike as part of the attack action on your turn and are holding a Kensei weapon, you can then use it to defend yourself if it is a melee weapon. So that gives you a +2 bonus to your AC until the end of your next turn, which is really, really, really good. Like, +2 AC is insane. And I mean, you're a monk, so a lot of the times you're going to be making an unarmed strike. So agile parry is basically going to be kind of a passive for you. It doesn't even give a limit as to how much you can do that. Kensei shot. This is for ranged Kensei weapons. You can use a bonus action in your turn to make your ranged attacks with a Kensei weapon more deadly. When you do so, any target you hit with a ranged attack using a Kensei weapon takes an extra 1d4 damage of the weapon's type. So let's say you're shooting with a short bow. It's like 1d8. I think short bow is 1d6, but it'd be like 1d6 plus 1d4 plus, whatever your dexterity is. Maybe it's 4, 3, 4, or 5, but that's a decent amount of damage. It's pretty good. And then finally, there's Wave the Brush. You gain proficiency with your choice of calligrapher supplies or painter supplies. Yeah, crazy stuff. But I mean, just inherently at like level 3, those perks, agile parry is insane. Also, giving a monk the ability to use a weapon in general means, you could have a monk with a rapier or something. And that's 1d8 damage, which is way higher than a monk's unarmed strike damage. So already inherently, Kensei monks are dealing more damage than your regular monks, just off of the sort of philosophy alone that they have access to regular weaponry. And then if they decide to use the fist, well, now they get +2 AC, which is insane. Absolutely crazy. But still very good. Next up, I want to talk about Drunken Master. I personally just really like Drunken Master. There's a lot of really, really good monk subclasses out there. This is going to be the last one we cover, but yeah, I mean, this one's pretty great. At third level, you get the proficiency in the performance skill if you don't already have it. You also gain proficiency with brewer's supplies. So obviously you can make your own beer. At third level, with Drunken Technique, you learn how to twist and turn quickly as part of your Flurry of Blows. whenever you use Flurry of Blows, and then gain the benefit of the disengage action. And your walking speed increases by an additional 10 feet. So, I mean, consider being a monk, you've already got additional walking speed. They've decided to increase that even further. Absolutely insane starting ability, in my opinion. And I imagine that only gets a little crazier as things go on, and you can disengage further and further away from your enemies. I would encourage you to look through a lot of these subclasses on your own. We could be here for hours talking about all these super cool and interesting sort of subclasses. Like, I mean, we've got Long Death, Open Hand, Shadow, Sun Soul is really interesting. I've liked Four Elements before. Astral Self is super cool. There's just a lot of interesting flavor when it comes to the monk class. And you wouldn't really think there's that much flavor in different ways to punch somebody, but there are quite a lot of variations. So let's cover the rest of Monk before we get into our monster of the week. So one of the best abilities I think Monk gets is Deflect Missiles. Deflect Missiles is the ability to try to catch any projectile that's flying your way. If someone tries to hit you with a ranged weapon attack, you can attempt to catch whatever it is they're sending at you. And that is a roll of 1d10 plus dexterity modifier plus monk level. So, I don't know, let's say you're level 4 with a dexterity of 4. Then that would be 1d10 plus 4 plus 4, it'd be 1d10 plus 8. Which means at the very least, if the arrow is dealing 8 or less damage, you catch it pretty much automatically. And if you do reduce the damage to 0, you obviously catch that missile. And if you want to spend a key point, you can return to sender. You can turn around, you can whip that arrow or that bullet or whatever they throw it at you or try to hit you with, and throw it back with a range of 20 to 60, using the damage of the weapon, obviously, that you just caught. And yeah, there you go. That's worked out great in my campaign. Many times. It is very fun, always fun to watch the monk grab an arrow, throw it back, and instantly kill the person who tried to shoot them with it. That's always an entertaining sight. And personally, I think you should throw, if you've got a monk player and you're dungeon mastering, you should throw those kinds of opportunities at them a bit more often. Let them have that moment where they are able to like catch the arrow and save themselves. So 4th level, you get Slow Fall. So when you fall, to reduce any falling damage you take by an amount equal to 5 times your monk level. So once again, let's say we're level 4. That means any falling damage I take, we're reducing that damage by 20, which could potentially mean we're reducing all the damage because in D&D it's 1d6 per 10 feet that you fall. So to get to 20, that would require at least 3d6. So you can fall at least 30 feet and be fine. And then even then, if you fall 40 feet, you might take a couple points of damage at most. So really, it does improve your falling. That's really all it is. Extra attack at 5th level. So once again, we are punching even more. And then we also get every DM's favorite ability, Stunning Strike. Stunning Strike allows you to use a key when you punch somebody. And you can use this multiple times. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or be stunned until the end of your next turn. That's amazing. If they fail that Constitution saving throw, that means until the end of your next turn, they can't do anything, which means they're probably going to be skipping their turn at the very least. That's crazy because you can also you could chain stunning strikes. So let's say I stun someone 1 round. Well, I wait until the end of my next turn. Well, I guess I don't know. I don't know if you could. That's an interesting kind of concept because you can't exactly apply stun to someone who's already stunned, right? Interesting. That's something I'm going to have to consider. At 6th level, we have Key Empowered Strikes. This is huge for Monk, just because at 6th level, their unarmed strikes now count as completely magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity. Which obviously at 6th level, you're going to be coming into a lot of enemies that have that. So by that point, yeah, you are going to need your magical fists. At level 7, you get the rogue ability Evasion. which means that if you make a dexterity saving throw and you succeed versus like a fireball or something, you only take you only take the half damage if you fail, and if you succeed, you don't take anything, which is really good. At 7th level, monks get stillness of mind. You can use one action to end one effect on yourself that is causing you to be charmed or frightened. So monks are very hard to charm or frighten. Purity of body. At 10th level, you are now immune to disease and poison. At 13th level, you understand all spoken languages. Moreover, any creature that can understand a language can understand what you say. So once again, here's where people are kind of meaning like later level. I mean, it's cool to be able to understand every language, but this isn't a mechanic or a combat thing. And it's been 6 levels since you've gotten one, So I see where people say like monk kind of falls off. Diamond Soul. You get proficiency in all saving throws. Whenever you make a saving throw and fail, you can spend 1 key point to reroll it and take the second result. That's cracked. Timeless body. You no longer need food or water, and you can't be aged magically, and you no longer suffer frailty from old age. You can still die from old age, however, but, you're just like an old, super awesome dude. At 18th level, you get empty body, not bottle. You can use your action to spend 4 key points to become invisible for 1 minute. During that time, you also have a resistance to all damage but force damage. Additionally, you could spend 8 key points to cast the astral projection spell, which is crazy, which means you could just go to like other planes as a monk. It's crazy. And then at 20th level, our last capstone ability, when you roll for initiative and have no key points remaining, you automatically gain 4 key points, which, as per empty body, will then allow you to become invisible for 1 minute. Absolutely insane. But of course, you have to wait until 20th level to get there, so you're really probably not going to be seeing it. But yeah, that is monk. There are super awesome kung fu masters that really can just give it to you. It's just some amazing stuff that they can do. But of course, that later half, we don't actually have a lot of combat benefits necessarily. I mean, proficiency in strength saving throws is great. Languages is cool. Age is crazy, but at the end of the day, it's not like any new abilities or anything. It's nothing that's going to be helping a monk in combat. They're going to be doing pretty much the same thing they did at level 10 that they're doing at level 20. Just, maybe with a little bit more oomph. But yeah, that's monk. And I'd say they're one of my favorite classes. I don't see them played too often, but when I do, they're always a fun time. So we're gonna get now into our monster of the week, and that is going to be the Sahuagin. And these guys are like fish dudes. They live in obviously bodies of water, oceans, seas, underground lakes, underground caves. Find them in the Underdark. Find them pretty much just about anywhere. But these guys are, they're really just fish people, to be honest with you. But these aren't like even the cool fish people. These are like, I don't know, man. They're angry fish people. They worship Sokola, who the god of sharks, as their patron deity, and they oftentimes specifically live in underwater settlements that have like specifically passages out to various other places and other things. You see a lot of Sahuagin act as sort of these marauder kind of types, where they might jump on a pirate ship or try and take over like a marina or something. But I mean, Sahuagin are the natural enemies of sea elves and lizard folk. So naturally, you're going to be seeing a lot of conflict between those two. If you're doing a seafaring campaign, do consider the Sahuagin, the sea elves, and the maybe even the lizard folk. I don't know necessarily how common a lizard folk is out on the ocean, but I know probably swampy, jungly areas that are near the water are definitely fair game. And it says here that, of course, Sahuagins only slightly hate Tritons less than sea elves and lizard folk. So, maybe there's a little bit of less animosity for the Tritons, but it does really seem like Suhagen just kind of hate everybody and want to just ruin everything for them, to be honest with you. But one cool thing about Suhagen, I know this one's kind of short, but they use sharks as allies in battle. So if you're fighting a bunch of Suhagen, guess what? You might very well be fighting a bunch of sharks as well. Really, honestly, I just kind of wanted to talk about these fish dudes that aren't the Kuatoa, because the Kuatoa are, in my opinion, way cooler. But yeah, Suhagen, great fish people. If you're a dungeon master and you're going to do an aquatic campaign, you cannot have an aquatic campaign without the Suhagen. It feels like a sin to me, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'd look into them a bit more. I know there's some in Baldur's Gate 3, so if you're interested in seeing what they look like, they're all over Act 3, at least at a couple places. But that'll be it for us today. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about the Monk class. Next week, we're going to be talking a bit more about Cyberpunk. Excited to find out what I figure out for that. But yeah, I've been Tyler Happney. Thank you so much for listening to Dungeons and Dystopias, and I will see you next week.